And he saw my boots, and I had on blue suede boots.
Oh, man.
And he turned to me and he started crying.
Yeah.
She was America's sweetheart with that cute button nose and famous smile. Men wanted to date her. Women wanted to be her. Then one day, she walked the red carpet and nobody recognized her. Her face was so different that even her friends walked right past her. Now, at 60, she finally admits what really happened. I went into surgery as a celebrity and came out anonymous. The shocking truth about Hollywood's most famous plastic surgery disaster will leave you speechless. Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan was once the golden girl of Hollywood. In the late 80s and through the 90s, she charmed audiences in romantic comedies like When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. Her bright smile and natural warmth made her a household name and earned her the title of America's Sweetheart. As the years passed, though, people began to notice changes in her appearance. By the mid-2000s, her face looked different, fuller, smoother, less expressive. This sparked a wave of speculation. Though she never confirmed anything publicly, plastic surgeons who had never treated her guessed she might have had fillers in her cheeks, Botox in her forehead and lips, and possibly even a nose job. One surgeon went so far as to say that the work may have gone too far, claiming the fullness in her cheeks made her eyes look smaller and even gave her face a slightly masculine edge. By the 2010s, the change in her looks was dramatic enough that some media outlets described her as unrecognizable. Her once subtle, expressive face now looked tight and overly smooth. When she smiled, the plumpness in her cheeks and lips was hard to miss, a sharp contrast to the softer features she had when she first won over audiences. The public and media reactions were intense and often harsh. Headlines focused more on her face than her work, painting her as a cautionary tale of plastic surgery. The criticism wasn't just frequent, it was often cruel. Fans expressed shock, tabloids fed the fire, and Meg Ryan took the brunt of it all. She's spoken out about the scrutiny, calling it a lot of hatred and silly. In interviews, she's made it clear that she doesn't dwell on it. Her friends, she says, don't sit around talking about her face, and she tries not to either. Despite the noise, she's continued to live her life on her own terms, refusing to let public judgment define her. Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman has long been one of Hollywood's most admired actresses, known for her roles in Moulin Rouge, The Hours, and The Others. Her striking beauty, especially her porcelain skin and elegant features, made her a standout. But even someone like Nicole couldn't escape the pressure of aging in the spotlight. By the time she was in her late 30s and early 40s, people began noticing subtle changes in her appearance. Fans and media started to speculate. Had she done something to her face? Nicole always denied having any major plastic surgery. No facelifts, no nose jobs. But she did admit to trying Botox. Botox, a non-surgical treatment used to smooth out wrinkles, was something she used for her forehead and around her eyes. She was open about it later, even calling it a mistake. "I did try Botox, unfortunately, but I got out of it," she said. While she never confirmed it, some believed she may have also had small fillers or laser treatments here and there. Still, Botox was the main procedure linked to her name. During the years she used it, mainly in the mid-2000s, her face started to look noticeably different. Her forehead became so smooth that it barely moved, even when she was acting or walking red carpets. Her eyebrows stayed still, and there were no wrinkles, which looked unnatural during emotional scenes. Her cheeks looked extra tight, her skin almost too perfect. Some people thought her once expressive face looked a bit frozen, even wax-like. Nicole herself admitted later that she didn't like how her face didn't move the way it used to. Once she stopped using Botox, fans noticed the difference right away. Her forehead began to show natural lines again, and her expressions looked more real. Nicole seemed relieved too. She happily shared that she could move my forehead again. Of course, with someone as famous as Nicole Kidman, every change in her appearance was heavily discussed. When her face looked too smooth, the media jumped on it. Articles popped up asking if she'd had work done, even before she said anything. Some fans defended her, still finding her beautiful. Others felt disappointed that she seemed to give in to the pressure to stay young forever. For a while, Nicole avoided the topic in interviews. She even once claimed, "I have nothing in my face," which made some people raise their eyebrows. But eventually, she was more honest. In a 2011 interview, she openly said she had used Botox but didn't like the results. That comment made headlines. People appreciated her honesty, and it helped quiet some of the rumors. She agreed with critics that the frozen look wasn't a good look, especially for an actress. Renee Zellweger. Renee Zellweger is known around the world for her roles in movies like Jerry Maguire, Bridget Jones's Diary, and Chicago. In the 2000s, she was praised not just for her acting, but for her unique appearance, especially her slightly squinting eyes that became a signature part of her look. But after stepping away from Hollywood for a few years in the early 2000s and 10s, she returned in 2014 looking very different, and people quickly noticed. That year, she showed up at an event and surprised everyone. Her face looked noticeably changed, especially around her eyes. The skin above her eyelids seemed smoother and more lifted, which made her eyes look much more open. Her forehead was wrinkle-free, her brows looked higher, and her cheeks seemed fuller. Some experts believed she may have had Botox, fillers, or even an eyelid surgery, though Renee never confirmed any of it. Still, the change sparked a lot of talk. Many people said she looked almost unrecognizable. Her once familiar features had shifted. Her signature eyes were now wide and bright, and her whole face looked softer and more youthful. The internet reacted immediately. Headlines around the world focused on her new face, and social media exploded with comments and speculation. Some fans were upset, thinking she had changed herself because of pressure from Hollywood. Others supported her, saying it was her choice and no one else's business. The attention didn't stop there. The situation led to a wider conversation about how women in the public eye are judged for aging, especially in Hollywood. Some critics called the reaction unfair and sexist, pointing out the double standards women face. Renee eventually spoke out. She called the whole conversation silly and said that any changes people saw were simply the result of her living a healthier, happier life. She insisted there was no secret surgery and said she felt no need to explain her appearance to anyone. Even so, the intense focus on her looks did affect her career for a while. She had been away from acting, and when she returned, the attention wasn't on her work. It was on her face. In 2016, she wrote an op-ed titled "We Can Do Better," where she strongly denied having surgery on her eyes and criticized the media for spreading false stories. She said those rumors had even cost her job opportunities and called out the cruel way women are treated when they don't fit a narrow idea of beauty. Despite the backlash, Renee's career didn't stall. In 2019, she played Judy Garland in Judy, a role that won her another Academy Award. Since then, she's stood firm in her belief that the way society judges women, especially as they age, needs to change. Her experience became one of the most talked about examples of how quickly public opinion can turn based on appearance, even when the person at the center of it all says nothing really changed but her life. Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey became a star overnight after playing Baby in the 1987 hit movie Dirty Dancing. Her curly hair and natural nose were part of what made her unique and memorable. People loved her look. It stood out in Hollywood. But a few years later, when her fame was still high, she made a decision that would change everything. In the early 1990s, Jennifer had a nose job. It wasn't her idea. People in the industry had suggested that her nose might limit her future roles. The first surgery didn't go as planned. It left a small flaw, so she had a second one to fix it. But the second surgery went too far. Her nose became much smaller, almost unrecognizable. She later joked and called it Schnauzageddon, a sign of how drastic the change was. What was meant to be a small tweak turned into something much bigger. Her new nose, though more perfect by Hollywood standards, erased a big part of what made her face special. The change was so dramatic that even friends and colleagues didn't recognize her. The same face that audiences had connected with in Dirty Dancing was now gone. Jennifer said she felt practically unrecognizable. Casting directors didn't know who she was. Photographers ignored her. Even the paparazzi didn't realize they were looking at the same person who once graced magazine covers. She went from being famous to being invisible. At first, the public didn't pay much attention, but as Jennifer tried to keep working, people started to notice. Fans were confused. The media caught on. Soon, her story was everywhere, used as an example of plastic surgery gone wrong. She once said, "I went into the operating room as a celebrity and came out anonymous." That wasn't just a clever line, it was her reality. She even thought about changing her name to start fresh, since her old face, and the fame that came with it, was gone. The press and comedians made her the punchline of jokes. That part hurt the most. What started as a personal choice became something everyone laughed at. And behind the laughter was real pain. Her career stalled. Roles dried up. She said it felt like she had lost both her identity and her job. Overnight, one surgeon had even asked her bluntly why she hadn't fixed her nose after seeing her in a movie. That comment stuck with her. Years later, Jennifer spoke more openly about what happened. In her memoir and interviews, she admitted she regretted the surgeries. She had wanted to make a small change, but it ended up changing everything. She described it as being misunderstood by the world. And that misunderstanding followed her for decades. Eventually, Jennifer found some humor in the situation. She even played a version of herself on a sitcom that poked fun at how unrecognizable she'd become. Slowly, she started acting again, mostly in smaller roles and on TV. In 2010, she made a big comeback by winning Dancing with the Stars. Melanie Griffith. Melanie Griffith became a well-known actress in the 1980s, especially after her role in Working Girl. She stayed in the spotlight through the 90s and 2000s, not just for her acting, but also for her high-profile relationships with Don Johnson and Antonio Banderas. Coming from a famous family, her mother is actress Tippi Hedren, and her daughter is Dakota Johnson. Melanie grew up in show business and stayed there most of her life. As the years went on and she aged in front of the cameras, Melanie, like many Hollywood stars, turned to cosmetic procedures to try and stay youthful. She's admitted to using facial fillers, especially in her lips and cheeks. At the time, she didn't realize how much was being added. The changes were small at first, but over time they built up. She later said she had gone to a bad doctor who kept injecting more than she expected. Gradually, her appearance began to change. By the late 90s and into the 2000s, fans noticed that her face looked puffier, her lips fuller, and her skin tighter. Some people felt the change was too much. Her face didn't quite look like the one audiences had known and loved. Even Melanie herself admitted she didn't realize how different she looked until people began to comment. "Oh my God, what has she done?" became a common phrase she heard, and it hurt. The media didn't hold back. Tabloids published unflattering comparisons of old and new photos. Online comments were often cruel. Many said she looked like a completely different person, and not in a good way. The backlash stung, and it pushed her to take action. Eventually, Melanie decided enough was enough. She found a new doctor who helped her reverse the changes. The fillers were dissolved, and she began to look more like herself again. "Hopefully, I look more normal now," she said. She's been honest about her regrets, admitting that she let things go too far. Although her career slowed down as she got older, Melanie remained strong. It's hard to say if the drop in roles was due to her age, the surgery, or both, but she kept working. Today, she still appears at events and in smaller projects. With much of the filler gone, she looks closer to her original self. Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley was once best known as the wife of Elvis Presley, and later made her own mark in Hollywood through TV and film. By the early 2000s, she was in her 60s and, like many stars, looking for ways to keep a youthful appearance. What happened next, though, wasn't part of any usual beauty routine. In 2003, she received cosmetic injections from a man who claimed to be offering something better than Botox. His name was Daniel Serrano, and he wasn't even a licensed doctor. Instead of FDA-approved substances, he was injecting industrial-grade silicone, the kind used for car parts. Priscilla and others didn't know it was dangerous. They believed it was a safe, modern treatment to reduce wrinkles or plump the face. But it wasn't. Over time, the effects of the bad injections began to show. Her face developed lumps and started looking unnaturally stiff and tight. Viewers noticed it when she appeared on Dancing with the Stars in 2008. Her face seemed puffy, almost frozen. Though she tried to fix the damage later with corrective treatments, the change in her appearance couldn't be completely undone. When the truth came out, it caused a media storm. People were shocked that someone as well known as Priscilla could be fooled by a fake doctor. The story made headlines, especially when it was revealed that other celebrities had also been victims. There was sympathy, but also sensational coverage. Some outlets showed before and after photos to highlight how much her look had changed. Despite all this, Priscilla was never really mocked. She became more of a warning to others, proof that anyone, even a star, can fall victim to cosmetic fraud. The man who did this was eventually caught and jailed. Priscilla, meanwhile, pulled away from the spotlight. Her acting work slowed down, and she focused more on business and managing Elvis's legacy. Lara Flynn Boyle. Lara Flynn Boyle was once one of the most recognizable faces on TV. In the 1990s, she gained fame for her role as Donna Hayward in Twin Peaks, and later starred in The Practice. People admired her delicate beauty, pale skin, sharp features, and a slim figure that stood out in Hollywood. But as time went on, things changed. By her late 30s, around the mid-2000s, Boyle's appearance began to shift. Her once familiar face started looking different, and many believed cosmetic surgery was the reason. Although she never confirmed any procedures herself, experts and fans noticed changes. Her nose looked thinner, her lips plumper, and her face seemed fuller in a way that didn't seem natural. Some plastic surgeons guessed she'd had a nose job, lip injections, Botox, fillers, and possibly even a facelift or brow lift. One well-known surgeon publicly advised her to stop getting more work done. The difference in her looks was hard to ignore. People who remembered her from Twin Peaks were shocked. Her cheeks looked puffed up, her lips seemed stretched, and the shape of her face no longer had the same sharpness. At times, it looked like she couldn't move parts of her face much. a common sign of too much Botox. Paparazzi photos from around 2008 showed her looking so altered that she was nearly unrecognizable. The media jumped on the story. Tabloids ran side-by-side comparisons of her before and after photos, calling her appearance a trout pout, or describing her face as bloated. Articles painted her as a cautionary tale, someone who had gone too far in the search for youth. Fans reacted with a mix of sadness and criticism. Many said it was a shame that she changed what made her look so unique. Bole had already dealt with body shaming earlier in her career. Now the focus shifted to her face. Through it all, she rarely spoke out. She didn't offer explanations or fight back against the headlines. In photos, she often looked like she didn't want to be seen, sometimes hiding her face from the cameras. In later interviews, she suggested she had no regrets and didn't worry about what people thought. But during the height of the media storm, it was clear the attention wasn't easy for her. As her appearance changed, so did her career. Acting roles began to dry up. By the time she was in her 40s, she was no longer getting the steady work she once did. Some believed it was because casting directors didn't recognize her anymore. Her face had changed too much. She stepped back from Hollywood and only appeared in a few small films. In a 2021 interview, she said she never quit acting, but the opportunities simply stopped coming. Today, Lara Flynn Bole keeps a low profile. She said she's at peace with her choices, but her story is often told as a warning about the pressure to stay young in Hollywood and how chasing that ideal can lead to unexpected consequences. What happened to her face became part of her legacy, overshadowing the talent that once made her a star. Courtney Cox. Courtney Cox became a household name in the 90s as Monica Geller on Friends. With her face appearing on millions of screens for a decade, people felt like they really knew her. Even after Friends ended, she stayed in the spotlight through other TV and film roles. But as the years went by and she moved into her 40s, Courtney, like many stars in Hollywood, started thinking about how to keep looking young. She's been refreshingly honest about her experience. Over time, she got facial fillers, small injections meant to smooth out wrinkles and add volume. They weren't major procedures, just little tweaks here and there, probably in her cheeks, lips, and around her eyes. She also likely used Botox to ease forehead lines. Each treatment was subtle on its own, but they added up. Friends would suggest more, and she kept going, thinking she was staying ahead of aging. She later admitted she didn't realize how far it had gone. At first, the changes were easy to miss, but gradually, fans began to notice something looked different. Her cheeks seemed puffier, and her face looked tighter and less expressive. Her bright blue eyes looked a little smaller because of the added volume around them. The shape of her face changed. People started saying she just didn't look like herself anymore. Looking back, she said it was like a domino effect. One small thing led to another, and soon she didn't recognize what others were seeing. Because she was so well known, especially from Friends, the shift in her appearance sparked a lot of talk. Viewers watching her on Cougar Town or in interviews started commenting. Social media threads and tabloids asked what had happened to her face. Some people were critical, while others pointed out how tough it is to age in Hollywood. You're judged for looking older, and also judged if you try not to. Courtney didn't hide from the conversation. In interviews, she admitted she went too far. She even said she messed up, and that for a while, she didn't look right. Her honesty won her a lot of respect. People appreciated that even a big star could admit to chasing youth and losing herself a bit in the process. Thankfully, the changes weren't permanent. In 2017, she decided to have all her fillers dissolved. She said, "Thank God they're removable," and was relieved to start looking more like herself again. Fans noticed, too, her face looked more natural, more familiar. She embraced aging more openly, saying she's now as natural as I can be, and that she's okay with just being an older version of herself. Her career didn't fall apart because of the changes. She kept acting, including returning to her role in the Scream movies. But for a while, talk about her appearance did take some of the focus away from her work. In the end, though, her willingness to talk about it helped change the conversation. She opened up about the pressure women face to stay young and how easy it is to go too far without realizing it. Now, in her late 50s, Courtney laughs about her past decisions. She's a clear example of someone who learned from experience, chose to be real about it, and came out the other side, still talented, still working, and more herself than ever. Tara Reid. Tara Reid became a star in the late 1990s with hit movies like American Pie and its sequel. She was everywhere in the early 2000s, often seen at parties and red carpets, known for her beauty and rising fame. But as her career grew, so did her desire to change her appearance. In 2004, she made the decision to get plastic surgery. She said her breasts were uneven and she wanted a flatter, more sculpted stomach, even saying, "I wanted a six-pack." She chose to get breast implants and liposuction on her stomach at the same time. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. She asked for a small change in her breast size, but the surgeon gave her something larger than she wanted. Even worse, she developed bumps around her nipples after the surgery. Her stomach, which she hoped would look smooth and toned, came out with bulges and ripples. She later said, "It all went wrong. My stomach became the most ripply, bulgy thing." The changes to her appearance were easy to notice. Her breasts looked uneven and had visible scars. Her stomach had dense and wrinkled skin that didn't match the usual look of someone in their 20s. At a red carpet event in 2004, her dress strap slipped and her breast was accidentally exposed in front of photographers. The pictures spread quickly, and the public saw the scars and uneven results. From that point on, people talked more about her surgery than her acting. The media reaction was harsh. Tabloids ran stories calling her surgery a disaster. Online, she was mocked and even called names related to her appearance. Tara said people called her job the ugliest in the world, and the comments from strangers hurt. Even people she dated made rude remarks. She remembered some saying, "What's wrong with them?" and felt so embarrassed she wouldn't let them see her body with the lights on. It deeply affected her confidence. Despite the humiliation, Tara chose to speak up. In interviews and on talk shows, she told the truth about what happened. She didn't hide it. By being honest, she hoped to warn others and take back some control over the story. Over time, some people started to understand the pain she went through and began to show more sympathy. The surgeries also hurt her career. She said she lost roles after the scandal, and her image in Hollywood changed. It took her 2 years to build up the courage to see another doctor and fix the damage. In 2006, she had more surgery to reduce the scarring and improve her stomach's appearance. The results helped her feel better about herself, and slowly, she returned to work. She eventually found success again in the Sharknado film series, but the whole experience left a lasting mark. Tara later said that if she could go back, she wouldn't have done any of it. The surgeries, the media storm, and the emotional toll turned into a nightmare she had to live through. Still, she didn't let it break her. Instead of hiding, she shared her story and warned others to think twice before making similar choices. Today, her story remains one of the most well-known examples of how plastic surgery in Hollywood can go very wrong, and how hard it can be to recover from it.